are the old dark navy blues. We're the team that never lets you down. We're the only team old Carlton knows. With all the champions they like to send up, we'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous old dark blues.
Well, we haven't heard that song in quite a while, have we?
We
Hello,
haven't. I've almost forgot what it sounded like.
And me too. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blue Sunday. My name is Joseph Luzza, coming to you from Bangkok. And as usual, joining me back in our Melbourne studio, my co-host, Carlton Life member and former president of the Carltonians. For those who don't know, it's a coterie group. Mr. Vince Loccisano. A warm welcome to you, Vince.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And yes, isn't it good to be a Carlton supporter today? Finally, the pressure valve got released today with a big win over the Gold Coast Suns.
As they say, I think the puffer valve has been released. Anyway, hey,
yes.
before we go, Vince, let's do the necessities. So, as people know, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and we're on the Jumper Punch channel. Essentially, we look at all the rounds of the football, or the whole football round, and we concentrate on that team that we just played the song, the Carlton Football Club. So please don't forget on Facebook to give us a like and a share to all your friends. This is what helps the channel grow. It makes a better show for all of us. If you'd like to take part in the show, we encourage involvement and participation. So please put as many comments up. I'm not a big one for the foul language. I use it, but Mr. YouTube and Mr. Facebook are not very happy when we start effing and all these sort of words. So please try and keep it a bit
Joe.
Yeah.
You said that last week too, and then you went on one massive rant and started dropping F-bombs all over the place.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh dear.
It's just because of my love of the football club, Vince.
Yes, of course. You got passionate.
If you want to contribute, please, I'm happy to put comments up. Give me a bit of time. I get bombarded, and then people go, "Oh, you're not putting my comment up," And I want to put them up for a good 30 seconds so that we can all look at it and respond. I'm not going to put up, "Hi Vince, hi Joe, how are you?" I mean, I'm great. I'm great. I'm sure Vince is great. And our co-host who's waiting in the studio.
I'm a lot better this week than I was in the last 9 weeks, I can assure you.
There you go. So, and just finally, for those of you who don't know, Blue Sunday is proudly brought to you by my company, Retired Working For You Tours. My company specialises in tours of Thailand. So if anyone is interested in coming over, we don't do the backpacker experience. We're really more into the higher end. So please feel free. Get me on the internet there, www.rw, the number 4, the letter U, tours.com. Vince, speak to me.
Finally got through all of the housekeeping, as we call it.
Formalities. Yep. I was trying to think of the words. And just here's the first one I want to put up. I agree with Robbie. I forgot the song when we won. I was thinking, what are the words to this?
No, they do very quickly come back to you, those words. I'm sure it wouldn't have taken too long for most Carlton supporters to remember the lyrics.
No, I'm sure not either. So, Vince, before we launch into our Carlton victory, let's go through all the games. So, I think long time now. We started on Thursday night.
Yeah, we did. It was, can't believe it. It's already, 3 nights ago, is it?
Yeah.
And a big win to Port Adelaide. They were challenged early by Geelong. Geelong got off to a pretty decent lead at one stage, but Port Adelaide showed their class in the end. 16-14, 110. They are the real deal this year. That's 11 in a row. And defeating last year's premiers Geelong 11-6-72 in very convincing fashion by 38 points.
It was. Then we moved to Friday evening.
Yes, I watched this game, and look, I've got to say, Brisbane have almost got a bit of Melbourne about them. They tend to dominate games like this, but they keep the opposition in it by kicking poorly for goal, and it was another similar performance on Friday night in a game that they were very heavily favoured to win. 13 goals, 97 to the Sydney Swans 12-9-81. So they won by 1 goal, 16 points.
All right. And now, do you remember we used to play all the games on a Saturday once?
Yeah, once upon a time. This was the only game played on the Saturday afternoon, which was actually a twilight game over there in Western Sydney. And again, I tell you what, the GWS Giants are starting to take all before them under coach Adam Kingsley. And another big win here over Fremantle, who've really claimed some scalps in recent weeks. But this time they absolutely smashed them. So 16 goals, 10, 106. And Fremantle hardly got out of first gear. 5 goals, 636. That would have been a very miserable, long trek to and from Sydney for the Fremantle Dockers.
Okay, then we had...
Excuse me. Yes, then we had the big game, of course, Trent Cotchin's 300th game. And Richmond overpowering St Kilda. 13 goals, 12-90. Defeating St Kilda 11 goals, 4-70 by 20 points. So Richmond are not done yet. If you think that they're not going to make the finals, they're very much in contention now. Putting a few wins together too. I think that's 3 in a row for Richmond.
We'll get to the Carlton game in a minute. And the game that just finished, Vince, was?
Sorry about that. Just got interrupted there. We've got the last game today at Marvel Stadium. The Western Bulldogs ended up prevailing over North Melbourne, a gallant North Melbourne, 15-15, 105 to North Melbourne, 13 goals, 684. So the Doggies, that was the first game in 4 weeks that they've broken that losing streak.
So that brings us to the ladder, Vince.
Indeed. And, of course, some teams have played 14, some have played 13, so it's a bit of a mixed bag depending on who's due for a bye next week. We are one of those teams who have played 14 games and are due for a bye. So Port Adelaide on top, purely because they've played one extra game than Collingwood. Their percentage is not quite as good, but, they've got the win on the board, so Collingwood have still got to win their next match to match them again and overtake them on percentage. But Port Adelaide on 12 wins from 14 matches, 119.3%. Collingwood, 11 wins from 13 matches, and their percentage is very, very healthy at 135.1. Melbourne, 2 games behind Collingwood. They play next week against Geelong on Thursday night, so that'll be a big game for them. They are in third position on percentage from Brisbane, who obviously with that win over Sydney have matched them now on 9 wins. So they're both in third and fourth positions on 36 points. Then we've got 3 teams all on 8 wins and 32 points. They being St Kilda in 5th, Essendon in 6th, and the Western Bulldogs in 7th, but they've played 1 extra game. So they'll be having a bye next week. Adelaide are just in the 8 on 7 wins from 13 matches and a percentage of 116.5. Outside of the 8, we've got Richmond only half a game out now. That's 6.5 wins from 14 matches for them. And then follows Geelong. Last year's premiers looking very, very shaky and no guarantees of making the final 8 for them. But anyway, they're 6 wins from 13 matches. They've lost 7 games already, Joe. I think they could only probably afford to lose 2 more. And if they lose any more than 2, I think they're going to be in trouble.
I think so too.
Then we've got GWS who have matched them on 6 wins, but from 14 matches. So if Geelong lose next week to Melbourne, they will fall in with GWS on 6 wins from 14 matches. And with the injury to Patrick Dangerfield, you'd think that it would be a pretty hard task for Geelong to beat Melbourne next week.
Yeah.
Gold Coast then follows, also on 6 wins, and Fremantle. So I guess all the teams down to 13th have got a realistic chance of still making the finals. Those last 3 teams have all got pretty poor percentages, though. GWS on 97, Gold Coast on 94.7. That would have taken a bit of a battering today from us. And Fremantle 94.3. That also would have taken a battering due to GWS's win. So GWS have certainly gone up the ladder a few spots. We are still in 4th last position, despite our win today, on now 22 points. That's only 5.5 wins from 14 matches. A percentage also under 100% of 98.1. Then you've got Sydney on 5 wins only from 13 matches. Who would have thought that last year's grand finalists would be 3rd on the ladder at this stage of the year? So that's 5 wins, 20 points. And then you've got the last 2 there. Hawthorn, who have claimed some scalps in recent weeks, including the Brisbane Lions last week. We play them the next time we play, so that'll be a big test for us. They're on 4 wins, 16 points, and North Melbourne and West Coast bring up the rear with 2 wins and 1 win respectively, and seem to be clear bottom 2 on the ladder. And you never know, West Coast actually play North Melbourne in the next couple of weeks in Perth. It might be their only realistic chance to possibly get another win, but it'll be interesting if they do happen to get a win, who ends up last on the ladder. At the moment, West Coast percentage is absolutely deplorable on 51.4. But anyway, that's an in-depth look at the ladder this week. And obviously after the last week of the last round of games next week with teams having a bye, we'll then see after everyone's played their 14 matches who's going to be in and out of the 8.
Vince, I've just left the ladder up for a minute for one reason. So I want to concentrate on Richmond and Carlton. Now, as everyone knows, round 1 was a draw.
Yep.
So who do you think would be sort of upset more about that draw at the moment? Do you think it'd be Richmond or Carlton?
Well, I don't know. I think probably both teams lose out of that situation. I don't think it helps either team, to be frank.
No.
It probably helps Richmond a little bit more because their percentage is only 102.4. So if they had lost that game to us, they'd be down below Geelong on 24 points. So I think they're probably more grateful for the draw than what we are. But look, if we can string some wins together, you never know. We might be back up and challenging again for another spot in the 8. But it remains to be seen.
Anyway. So, Vince, you know what time it is now, don't you?
Approximately 7:43 p.m.
No. More important than that, it's time that we introduce our special comments, man.
Of course, yes.
1979 Premiership player. He plays. He can play anywhere. He's Mr. Adaptable, forward and back, right? And he'll tell you about it.
My word.
And from what I can tell, also a keen punter, but we'll get to that in a minute, Mr. Peter Brown. How are you tonight, Peter?
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Vince. Good evening, viewers.
G'day, Brownie. I don't know about Brownie being the keen punter. He just came along for the ride and decided to come out for a nice dinner. But, in fact, none of us even – we went out to the races together with our partners. And, you put up the photos there, Joe. That's very nice. Yes, Italian Cup buffet night at Tabcorp Park, Melton. And we had a fabulous night and we didn't even watch a race.
I just want to know, how many violin cases did you trip over?
Well, actually, on the right-hand side, hang on, just leave that photo up, Joe. On the right-hand side, you'll see Brownie and me there together with a lovely guy that I think Brownie sent the cheerio to last week called Ray Camilleri. And he was on our table with his whole family. And on the left, of course, you see Tanya there in green and red and in all the Italian colours. And Brownie's wife, Gail, dressed in the Italian soccer team's colours, which is the Azzurri, if you recall. So the girls certainly got dressed for the occasion, which was a great fun night at Melton.
Were you wearing the Italian pensioner flannelette shirt there, Vince, were you?
Yes, just something nice and casual for a cold Saturday night in the middle of winter. Yes.
Jeez.
Don't
Did you back
worry
a
about
winner
it.
at least?
Sorry, Joe.
Did you back a winner, Pete, or did you not a gambler?
We didn't even have a bet.
What's the point of going?
We didn't
Well, it
have
was
a
an-
bet. But I think it was about the 8th or 9th. I think it might have been the 8th race on the card of the night. Vince picked out a horse at $81 for the win, right?
And it won.
Yeah. And he said to me, "Oh, come on, Brad, he put a couple $100,000 on it, yeah, and it got up, but I didn't put it on."
Yeah.
How come you don't give that
Even
to our viewers,
a
Vince?
couple of dollars would have been enough.
Anyway.
Can you imagine if you put $200,000 on an 80-1 shot that comes in?
The bookie would have slashed the odds straight away. We did that once. We'd had a big win at the races, and we're walking out, and we saw some horse at 250-1. So we thought we'd play a bit of a joke on the bookmaker. So I went and put $10 the win, and then another bloke put $10 the win. It went from 250 to 200. Then another bloke went to. Everyone around us thought, "Oh, these guys know something." It's nearly started favourite. Ran last by about 20 lengths. We're in the corner laughing, and all these punters and the bookmaker are just killing us. Anyway,
the only time I bet is when I don't put any money on and the bloody things get up. So that's
right. That's about right too. As you can see from my omen bets in the last 13 weeks, not too many of them get up, Randy.
We'll get to them later. Anyway, this afternoon at the nice hour of 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, I had to get up. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here, so I had my bacon and eggs. We saw Carlton win. Vince, go through it, please.
Wow, what a victory, really. I mean, it looked for all money like after the first quarter, it was just going to be one of those, ho-hum games again. But my word, I don't know what clicked in the second quarter, but it was almost like we were all guns blazing and everything seemed to work. But anyway, the final scores was a big 59-point victory, pretty much 10 goals, 18 goals, 12, 120 to the Gold Coast Suns, 8-13, 61, which didn't even reach our halftime score. In fact, the quarter-by-quarter scores, the first and third quarters were pretty even. I mean, Gold Coast, in fact, had a 10-point lead at quarter time, 2-6-18. They were a bit wasteful to our 1 goal, 2-8. But in very quick time in the second quarter, we started slamming on goals. I can't remember the last time we scored 9 uninterrupted goals in a quarter and kept the opposition goalless in that quarter. So we scored 9 goals, 3 to only 3 points in the second quarter. So the game was over at halftime, effectively. It was 10-5-65 to 2-9-21. 44 points in front at halftime. As we know, Joe, from the 1970 grand final, even a 44-point lead's not guaranteed to win. But
not at the G.
It looked like we'd have to have something go dramatically wrong to lose that game. Yeah. We basically matched it with the Gold Coast Suns in the third quarter. We kicked 3 goals, 3. They kicked 3 goals, 2. So basically the lead went out to 45 points at three-quarter time. And then we increased that to 59 points by scoring 5 goals, 4 to 3 goals, 2 in the last quarter. So we ran away with it, and a very comprehensive win. And I'm sure that the players, the coaching staff, and pretty much everyone involved at the club would be breathing a big sigh of relief this evening.
Before we go on to the stats, Peter, we've got a question for you.
Yep.
What part of Italy is Peter Brown from?
I think south.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that'll do.
Might be too big.
That's where all the mafia is.
There you go.
The other thing I should mention before we move on, Joe, just quickly, just go through the goal kickers for the Blues. Great to see Patrick Cripps hit the scoreboard. 3 goals straight today. Same with Harry Mackay, 3 goals straight. Charlie Curnow kicked 2 goals, 2. Adam Chera and Tom DeConning both kicked 2 goals, 1. Matthew Cottrell and Matthew Owies both kicked 2 goals straight, and then singles to Lockie Fogarty and Matthew Kennedy. So they were the goal kickers, kicking 18 goals, 12, 120. When was the last time we scored had a final score of that nature? Probably have to go back to the early rounds of this year.
Hang on. Someone's put something up. First time in 25 years, apparently, we scored 12 consecutive goals.
There you go.
It was actually
Anyway.
the commentary around that was that they were actually looking at a world record for scoring goals with unanswered. So, yeah,
Right.
I don't know whether they got it, actually. I don't think they did.
I don't know. Anyway, okay, let's go through the major statistics. Vince, if you'd like to go through them, the disposals.
Yes, well, you can see that we really dominated this game. Of course, with the statistics, you can see that we had a lot more of the ball, approximately 70 more disposals, more kicks, a lot more hand passes. And that's probably because we were transitioning the ball out of defence and into the forward line a lot better and a lot quicker. And our ball movement was better than I'd ever seen it at any stage this year. Inside 50s, again, we had quite a lot. And we had reasonable disposal efficiency there, pretty much the same as them. But our efficiency inside 50 was huge, 64% to 41. So that was quite a significant statistic.
Next.
Contested possessions, pretty similar, but uncontested, we had a lot more of the ball on the outside today. And you can see there that we were passing it to each other in open space. And we had something like 66 more uncontested possessions. Turnovers were pretty similar, Joe.
Yeah, it surprised me. I thought they turned the ball over a lot.
Well,
more
I think
than
both sides had a lot of turnovers. There were more turnovers there than a baker's delight out there at the MCG today. But in the end, it was pretty even.
Comedy, Vince. Champagne comedy.
Let's keep going. Hit-outs, well, they dominated because of Jared Witts. DeConning and Mark Pitnet competed well enough, but I think that they were clearly outpointed for hit-outs. The difference is, though, that we had, despite their hit-outs, 19 centre clearances to 7, and I think that was a telling statistic. And our clearances just generally were more than theirs. That's mainly because of the centre clearances. The around the ground and stoppage clearances were pretty similar.
Sorry,
I think one of the statistics that doesn't show up is the fact that we had scoreboard pressure on them in the second quarter.
Yeah, of course.
And the unanswered goals. And interestingly enough, in the first quarter, they went in with 6 points in the first quarter. And I thought if 2 or 3 of those had converted to goals, what sort of scoreboard pressure that would have put back on.
Well, yeah, they would have potentially had a 4 or 5 goal lead on us if it had been 6-2 instead of 2-6. In fact, I remember seeing the scoreboard in the second quarter. At one stage, that was exactly the score. It was us 6-2 to Gold Coast 2-6. And I thought, geez, if they had made the most of their opportunities in that first quarter, we'd be pretty much even right now. But you're right, Brownie, that scoreboard pressure and bad kicking is bad football, as Joe keeps telling us. So, I mean, it's got to be the most underestimated skill in the game, kicking for goal, because you can have the best game plan around. You can have all of the best transition from back line to forward line. But if those forwards can't kick goals from their scoring opportunities, and same with midfielders and small forwards, if they can't make the most of those opportunities and they only kick points instead of goals, it's a massive difference. Massive.
Massive. And the last statistic, and Petra's put up a comment about it.
Well, we had a lot more tackles, didn't we? Even though we had a lot more of the ball, our tackling was ferocious today, I thought, and it turned the ball over a lot. Yeah,
they were tackling in 2s and 3s. They were actually gang tackling.
Yeah.
At one stage there, they were that confident that they could leave their opponents and actually assist with some of the tackling. There were, at some stages there, Gold Coast 1 player up against 2 or 3 Carlton players.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really telling statistic for the game, I thought. And
it was interesting to see that the tackles inside 50, as opposed to last week, it was a complete turnaround there. 13-5.
Exactly.
Well, what we were doing was we were getting stoppages. At one stage, it looked, and it was funny because in my mind, as I'm watching the game, I was thinking to myself, shit, this is what Carlton was doing 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Gold Coast it was a complete reverse. They were making all the mistakes that we were making, 2 or 3 weeks ago and not being able to clear it. So, yeah.
Yep.
So, boys, for the last, 5 or 6 weeks, it's just been like a broken record, right?
Yep.
So
5 or 6, try about 8 or 9.
Okay, so, Peter, what did we do different today that we haven't done for the last 6 or 7 weeks?
Well, first and foremostly, I thought we actually changed up the side a little bit in terms of making some moves. Cripps went forward, of which something that I've been talking about for quite a while. I thought some of the moves that we made, and particularly more so the rotations through the middle, I thought that was telling. One of the other things that was really, really good, I thought, was that Vince went through the goal kickers before. We got contribution through our midfield this week, and we weren't relying upon the big talls, and even guys like Cottrell and Owie were able to contribute as small and medium forwards. So we were able to get some good percentage out of those. And I thought in previous weeks we hadn't gained a lot of territory within the game, and the movement of the ball was a lot cleaner and a lot swifter than what we've been used of in weeks gone by, where we've been mucking around with the ball, particularly on the flanks and things like that. And as a result of that, all the opposition were doing was just shutting our forward line down. Look, there was a couple of times I thought that maybe we could change things up in the forward line a little bit better. As it was, I mean, we were lucky on a couple of occasions that things fell in our lap, but I just thought our insides were a lot cleaner today, and as a result of that, we were able to score from it, particularly more so in that second quarter than. And if I was to be super critical, I would say that the first quarter was even, if not perhaps lost by a couple of points.
I thought they won the first quarter.
Yeah.
Who are Gold Coast?
Yeah.
Oh,
clearly.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And
we looked listless for a quarter. I don't know what happened, but we looked listless in that first quarter. We didn't score our only goal for the quarter. Came at about the 21-minute mark.
It was like people were standing around waiting for someone to do something.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Jack Martin got the ball in the pocket, did a really clever little left foot kick over to Adam Chera, and he was about 25 metres out on a slide angle. And he kicked the only goal for us in that quarter. But it was a nice goal, but I just felt we were just in the same mould as we were in previous weeks. But clearly Michael Voss has said something to them at quarter time, or he's broken the shackles and or allowed them to break the shackles in some way, because they all of a sudden played with a freedom that I haven't seen all year, Brownie. I mean, they used the corridor. They, as you said, gang tackled the opposition. They all of a sudden just clicked in, didn't they?
Well, I thought our, particularly more so our half backs, I thought they actually started to get some drive out of that. And by doing
Adam
that,
Sard was quite good in that second quarter, I thought.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And but then, interestingly,
they shut him down in the second half, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what happened was that they just put a player on him and took his left-hand side away from him, and then we weren't getting the drive out of there. But then, as a result of that, we had other players step up and be able to actually take it on. At one stage there was movement through the middle with Chin Cotter. He actually received a handball and then decided that he was actually going to take it on and was able to not only break a tackle but also step sideways, and it opened up for him. So I think some of those lesser known players, the more and more that they do play, the more and more they're probably going to be able to secure not only their position but also some confidence moving forward and be able to go into attack.
I reckon it's probably one of the only games I can recall this year where the boys look genuinely happy and enthusiastic, and they looked like they were enjoying themselves out there, and they were celebrating goals. And, when Cripps got his goals, they were going up to him like he'd just kicked his first goal in league football. And they looked very much like a unit of players that were together and very much had each other's backs today.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, after last week's dismal performance, and they've come out this week and turned the tables a bit. Now, let's not get carried away here. One game does not make the season.
Of course.
So let's be truthful about it. But
yeah,
the result is that there was some good positives that came out of the game, and they're the positives that we can work on to secure some more wins going forward.
Yeah. No, my word. Well,
Peter,
go on. Sorry, Joe. Go.
No, go on.
No, you're right. Go.
Peter, before we came on air, you talked about Brodie Kemp and being a leader down back. Do you want to explain to the viewers what you meant when you were telling me about it?
Well, I think that Kemp's been building slowly for the last 3 or 4 weeks, to be honest with you, even though we have been having losses. But I thought Kemp's I call it leadership. His opportunity to intercept, his ability to be able to read it. There was a passage of play where he was running side by side the forward, and the forward hesitated, and Kemp ran through and took the ball and then delivered inside 50 so that we could actually score out of it. And I thought, well, that really does show that he's now starting to build his confidence and build his leadership role in that. And I'm hoping that he will take the next step forward so that he can be the leader that we need in the back line and the general. I thought his role on Casbolt today was admirable. I mean, Casbolt took a couple nice marks and kicked a goal or two, but I thought he then started to shut him down, and not only that, but then start to be a bit creative himself. So I was pretty pleased with that, and I also love the fact that he's that I just think I can just see that there is leadership qualities in some of the things that he's doing back there. So that was my comment around that.
Just one thing, Peter. I know you're fairly critical of the person I'm going to talk about next, Jacob Wiedering.
Yep.
Darren here, I'm sorry, just put up Wiedering getting more positive. Do you know,
Well,
I don't want to be negative, but I still think he thinks too much when he gets the ball. He doesn't strike me as an instinctive player.
No. I think well, there was one occasion that I do recall was that he left his man, which was a good positive move, and then tried to smash the ball over the point post actually, or into a point, and actually missed the ball altogether and took out. I can't remember who he took out. It was one of the
King.
That's it. Yeah, and I thought to myself, well, realistically, if you're going to do that and you're going to commit to that, then you've got to make sure you stick with it. Now, the other thing that I've been pretty critical of Wiedering is the fact that he still gets, I believe, out positioned too easily for mine as a key backman. And the other thing that he does do is that he, in tight situations, he doesn't keep his feet, and as a result of that, it puts more pressure on the players around him, and it almost looks like sometimes that he does it as on purpose to be able to bloody well get away with something rather than be able to take responsibility. So look, I wasn't overly impressed with his game. Yes, he did some nice things, but as a leader back there, no, still not. And I've been critical all year of it.
And this is my point. He's got a good pair of hands, and he punches, but he just seems slow. I don't understand why. I don't know if I don't know if he's still worried about all that money he's lost. I don't know. We all know what's happening in his private life. I don't know if that's weighing down on him, but he's certainly not like the player he was last year, is he?
Absolutely not. No, he's not taking the game on like he did last year. And to your point, and there was one of the comments that just came up then from one of our viewers to say that he gets his hands to the ball, but he doesn't seem to be clean with his marking ability on occasions, and he's still, from an experience point of view, I think some of his disposals have got a lot to be desired, particularly not so much under pressure. So, I'm still a big question mark over Wiedering. Big question mark.
Okay, what about this guy? What did you think of Cripps today?
Now that's an interesting one. As I said earlier before we came on air, Joe, when the game was still reasonably tight, I thought Cripps had no influence on the game whatsoever. And when things started to open up is when that he actually started to assert some authority in the game. Now, I know he ended up with 27 and he kicked 3 goals and stuff like that, but realistically, most of that was when the game was iced, and the scoreboard pressure was there. And if you look at some of the defensive work today, he didn't have to work or try and work as hard, even though he doesn't. But I think most of the other players around him were working a bit more harder, and as a result, Cripps started to look good.
Is there anyone else that you want to comment on? Anyone in particular that you thought turned it around today?
Apart from obviously Kemp, but I thought that TDK's game was admirable.
I was going to ask you about the ruck situation there, Brownie. I mentioned earlier about Witts for Gold Coast getting the lion's share of the tap outs, but we seem to shark his tap outs a lot better than even his own players. And we won clearly the centre clearances. So what did you think of the ruck contest today and how our midfield handled the middle of the ground?
Well, I thought our midfield was actually getting better purchase out of the rucky contest purely and simply because they were in front of their opponents for a change. And they were actually prepared to take it on rather than try and be negative. And they were actually sharking, as you said before, sharking to Wicks. I've got to say, I thought Pitnet lowered his colours. I thought DeConning's efforts around the ground were a lot better than he perhaps still didn't win a lot of the tap outs, but his contest was better. And I thought
he even hit the scoreboard with a couple of goals.
Yes, yeah, and as I said before, if you've got guys like Chera and DeConning, and you've got guys out of the midfield that are actually hitting the scoreboard, that means then that takes a lot of pressure out of your forwards, and the thing starts to open up because of that.
Yeah. Well, if you have a look at Harry and Charlie, they basically got 5 goals between them. So wouldn't have been enough to win the game if it was just relying on those two. We needed to get additional players hitting the scoreboard, and we got that today for a change.
Yeah,
just
and
talking
don't
about
forget,
sorry, keep going, Pete.
Yeah, as I was just going to make comment of, as
Cottrell was another one who got a couple of really crucial goals in the second quarter.
Absolutely, and they were critical goals at the critical times too. Just quietly, it looked like that. Yes, we hit that little purple patch and all that sort of thing. However, I thought that if we'd have just purely and simply relied upon the feed into the forward line, I still don't believe with the supply that we had today, we still got enough out of our key forwards.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you that, Peter. A question from Cameron. As a forward, Brownie, did you find the setting in the forward 50 had more room this week?
I felt that there was a couple of opportunities where our ability to be able to lower our eyes this week was a lot more positive than what it has been. There was occasions when it was bombed up, but I just thought because of the quick ball movement through the middle, it allowed us to open it up a little bit more, and that's just a result of what was happening further up the ground, and the transition of that was allowing our forward line to look a lot more open than what it has been. I still have a question mark over the fact that our ability to be able to have a play set in that forward line is still, because if our midfield gets shut down and our supply gets shut down through the mids or through the centre of the ground, I still think that we will revert back to putting it on top of players, particularly resulting in the backs being able to cover it. So,
it's amazing the difference between, well, when you have a look at the last 8 or 9 weeks in all of those losses, how many times are we saying, they're just kicking it under pressure, up into the sky, on top of Harry and Charlie's heads, and all they're getting is defender after defender punching the ball away. Today, we looked like we were delivering the ball without the same sort of pressure, and these players had the opportunity to lower their eyes and have a little bit of extra time to size up what the best options were and deliver the ball into the forward line on that basis, rather than delivering it under pressure as we've seen in previous weeks. I think that made a huge difference today.
I know, sorry, Joe, but the point I was going to make was that, particularly more so in that second quarter, it looked like Gold Coast had changed jumpers with Carlton at one stage, because that's exactly how we were playing, weeks ago, when we were actually delivering that sort of stuff in the forward line, and the roles were reversed. So, and it, all of a sudden we looked like an Essendon, or we looked like a bloody Collingwood, or we looked like, an Adelaide or something like that, whereas we were able to deliver the ball to someone that was in, a better position for us.
It was the Gold Coast midfielders that were pretty much kicking it to Kaz Bolt and Ben King down there, like we'd been kicking it to Harry and Charlie in recent weeks. They must have been just as frustrated.
Well, Cameron raises a good point. They still fly together. I don't understand it.
I think that on occasions when those two fly together, I think it's because they still haven't quite worked out. They've got this. And you would have seen it at the game where you've got Harry floating up the ground, and then you've got Curnow floating up the ground as well. Don't forget, TDK went back to full forward on a couple of occasions there as well. And also Cripps was used in the forward line as an opportunity as well. Now, there's nothing wrong with using those two guys going up the ground and then having that other area to be able to work into, whether it be with TDK or whether it be with Cripps or in fact some of the other smaller forwards. So yes, they still fly against. I don't mind on occasions if they are wanting to have a go and be able to make a contest out of it. Providing that our small forwards go to work and be able to crumb. Now, I thought that was pretty telling today as well. Now, there was a couple of kids that came into the side today that I thought, well, they got nothing to lose. They're going to crumb everything that's going to come their way. And they did. And we actually were able to get and score a couple of times off that.
Go, Vince, do you want to say something?
There was an interesting comment I just saw that came up asking a question of you, Brownie. Did you ever fly up for a mark against Fitzpatrick in the same marking contest?
Or McClure?
Or did you stay out of their way?
Well, realistically, our disciplines were such that our ball movement was making sure that we used either the key forward, whether it be McClure or if I was there at the same time. But all our job was to do is to make a contest of it and get it to ground. And the thing was that the way that the game was played back then was that, you weren't necessarily flying with a group of players. You were actually, it was cleared out, and you were your job was to beat your immediate opponent, not be flying against each other in a contest. So it was a different setup altogether.
Well, you mentioned earlier that it's only one win, and we've got to try and keep a lid on this, that we haven't all of a sudden solved all of our problems with just one victory. But did you see anything today that gave you renewed hope that maybe the coaching staff have worked a few things out, and that maybe the pennies dropped for some of these players in terms of how they need to play and the way they need to move the ball and how they need to be teaming together? Did you see some good evidence there that maybe we can turn the corner now, or do we still need to see some more performances before we can make that sort of assessment?
Oh, I think consistency is the thing that everyone's got to be aiming for. It's nice having a nice little purple patch. We all got carried away with the fact that we were playing the West Coast reserves, 3-4 weeks ago, and thought that we'd all turned the table and we're on our way. But no, you come up against good sides, and good sides aren't going to allow you to be able to do what we did today. Now, that's not putting Gold Coast down. They've had some terrific wins up in Darwin and places like that where they really knuckled down and were able to do what they had to do to win the game. I just thought we took the ability of that away from them today. The players that they've been so reliant on, Raul and these guys, certainly didn't have an influence on the game. And as I said earlier, I thought that our scoreboard pressure in that second quarter was enough to, and you could see the Gold Coast players, I think their expectations coming into the game were a lot higher than what they actually were able to deliver on the day. And they actually interviewed Stuart
Dew.
Stewie Dew, sorry, yes. Senior moment, guys, sorry.
That's all right.
and Stewie,
I'm getting more of them every day.
Well, Stewie actually... Sorry?
Who are you two? I don't know.
Stewie, when they interviewed Stewie and they asked him a couple of questions about their performance so far, he said that it was well below expectations and it wasn't good enough, and I won't accept that sort of stuff being served up. So I thought that was really, really refreshing to hear that the coach is actually not happy with the performance.
Yes.
What about one area of concern? Someone before said he's not sold on TDK. I'm not sold on Mark Pitnet, right? So and then Alex Murkoff, who's 7'1", has now gone in for a heart operation. So I think we're stuck with Pitnet, but I guess we've got no other answers other than to play TDK in the ruck, whether he is a ruckman or not.
My idea with TDK is to use him as more of a round-the-ground type ruck contest and to use Pitnet more into a centre bounce situation where he can actually do that. Interestingly enough, I'd say that if Pitnet had a really solid pre-season and built up his engine a little bit more, I think he could actually be a better player than what he is now. Well, my thoughts on it. I would have. I still have the thought that maybe we could use Young as a backup ruckman, also just in case TDK actually takes off.
I think Young would get pushed around too easily. He's not very, very built. I mean, TDK's a big boy, and Jared Witts was, just.
Brownie, I think you'll find that if we lose TDK at the end of the year to another club, we're going to need to recruit another ruckman because Murkoff clearly, is too much of a risk. He's now got a heart operation. He's been on the list for 4 or 5 years and hasn't played one senior game. So you'd have to question whether he's up to the grade. The other young ruckman that they brought in at the start of this year's name's Hudson O'Keefe, number 40. He's not anywhere near it yet. So I think we'd have to actually recruit somebody.
Well,
if we lose TDK, at least as a backup ruckman, if not, even get someone that's even better than Pitnet and put him in as a number 1 ruck.
One of the things that you're going to be facing, and if I can use this bloody term shit uphill, is the fact that most ruckmen don't mature until they're around about 26, 27, 28. And that's when they become really, really good players. Now, you're suggesting that if we go out looking for one, at 26, 27, 28, if you're not an established ruckman with another side, then you're just going to be a fringe player. So, I mean, do we go through 2 or 3 years of pain trying to get one that we could use, but bringing through the ranks and have someone blooded correctly to do the job?
I was talking more about getting someone, for example, the one that comes to mind is a Sean Darcy from Fremantle. I mean, if Luke Jackson's now going to start taking on the mantle over there, he might be looking to come to Victoria. He's the type of ruckman I'm talking about. Seasoned, already established, can take over the number one ruck mantle pretty much straight away.
Yeah, as long as we get him cheap enough and not bloody will, go out there and blow
that's
our
the
bloody
big,
salary
that's the
cap
big,
to the shit house.
Yeah, well, that's
we'll
right.
Give
that's
him
the
Zach Fisher for him.
Well, there's going to be all sorts of shenanigans at the end of this year when it comes to trading. But anyway, I think we can see that we still have issues in the ruck, but we're making do at the moment with a makeshift ruck pair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then,
But then
also, I mean, it gets back to our midfielders being smart enough players in and around the bloody contest to be able to shark what's going on. Now,
and that's what they did well today.
And if we're not winning the contest, then we try and make something out of nothing by being able to take it off them.
Yep.
What did you think of Paddy Dow's game? Even though he only really came on for, a quarter and a half?
That's the third week in a row he's come on for a quarter.
Yeah, well, I said to you earlier before we came on air, Joe, that Paddy Dow needs to be used a lot more than what he's being used now. I thought he showed some really good clearing opportunities in that last quarter. I know the game was iced, but you still got to be able to win the ball. And I thought that some of his forward moves were good. And I'd be in the situation where I'd be keeping him in the side and giving him more opportunity than what they have been so far.
Who do we drop? Yep. That's the point. Do you drop a Kennedy or Fogarty? This comes down to like what they call team balance and stuff like that. I thought he did quite well when he went into the guts. He extracted the ball. He looks quick. I think he is pretty quick, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He was up against no slouches when he was in the middle, so he was able to get some clearances out of there, and I thought he looked pretty good. And that's why I said I'd keep him in the side, give him more opportunity.
What about Blake Acres? We're getting a lot of mixed comments. We just lost a wicket. Alex Carey's just been bowled for 66.
Blake Acres, I thought in the last couple of weeks, I don't think his contribution has been as big. Against Melbourne, he was well beaten with Langdon and Hunter. I thought both of those players were very solid contributors. And against Sydney, I thought he lowered his colours there a bit. And as we said some time ago, and we thought, and Blake Acres was earlier on was showing really good potential, but I don't think he was working hard enough into the back line today, and I don't think he was working hard enough going forward when we had the opportunity.
Yeah. One guy who I watched play junior football when he was at Camberwell, and you could tell even at the age of 15, 16, this guy was going to be a star. And it was his first game today in like 700 days or something, Cunningham. This guy, let me tell you,
it was great to see him back.
Skills.
Yeah, I thought he showed some real potential again. And
he's got a touch of class, hasn't he, David Cunningham?
Yeah, he's one of these types of players that that seems to have time on his hands, a bit like a Pendlebury, not in the same class, but he seems to have time, and he seems to make the right decision when he's actually using the ball. So, interestingly enough, everyone's getting carried away with Port Adelaide and stuff like that as the real deal. And to their credit, they're playing well. But these last 8 to 9 games, and I'm not talking about 10 games, I'm talking about 8 to 9 games, over the next 2 or 3 months are going to be very, very critical with injury and who's healthy and who's playing well. Because, it's already been proven that sides can be going really well earlier in the season and then come towards the end of the finals. We did it last year. I mean, we dropped off at the critical time of the year. And as a result of that, we didn't figure in what we considered was going to be a reasonable year. So, I mean, things can change pretty quickly. And it's been proven in the results in the last 2 or 3 weeks that any given day, if you've got 14 contributors on the ground and 14 winners on every day, that you're going to win the game of football.
Yep.
There was someone here. Let me get to it. Someone who didn't play today, Jack Silvani, right? I think JSOS will find it hard. And then one of his biggest followers has said he's been asked. I've heard he's been asked to look for another club. What do we get rid of him? What do people think? Next week we're going to go through our list in more detail, but I think he's going to. I don't think the club knows where to play him, to be honest.
Well, I think it's a bit like Fisher, isn't it? You've got these types of players that are obviously going to be the scapegoats, whether it be Silvani or whether it be bloody Fisher or whether it be possibly Motlop and these types of players. Interestingly enough, you can afford to carry a few of those players, but not very many of them. And you need the ability to be able to change it up or adjust to certain situations. And I just don't think up until today whether we'd taken the opportunity of being able to use those players in those roles. And I've said before that Silvani's never going to win you a premiership, or he's not going to be a key forward, or he's just going to be a bit player, and he's going to be an impact player. So you bring him in, use him for an impact, sit him down, as long as you can afford to carry him.
To be honest with you, to answer your question, Joe, in relation to Jack Silvani, I've really wondered whether we've done him a disservice, not only in playing him out of position on quite a few occasions by getting him to relief, play that relief ruckman role, and occasionally, out on the wing and all that sort of thing. But he's generally played forward. I just don't know why they've never tried him in defence. I actually think, and I've always thought that could be the answer to him, is to play him in the back line. But they've never even tried. I mean, his old man was the fullback of the century, so there's got to be a little bit of that instinctive way to play in the Silvanis. And I would have given him a try in defence, even if it was just for 4 or 5 weeks. But they've never done it.
Is he tall enough? Is he quick enough?
I mean, well, if Lockie Plowman can play defence, and if these sorts of guys can play defence, so can Jack Silvani. Lockie
Plowman's a superstar, though, Vince.
What I'm trying to say is that not everyone has to be a tall key position defender like Wiedering and McGovern and guys like that. Jack Silvani would be, a good halfback flank or back pocket type, playing on a tall resting forward. But I don't know. What do you think, Brownie? Do you think you'd be trying him in defence if all else failed? I just don't think he kicks enough goals as a half forward flank.
No.
And clearly playing in the ruck is not his thing, and he doesn't enjoy playing in the ruck. So do
you think he actually can make quick decisions, or do you think he's slow to react?
I think he's slower when he's actually got to initiate something in the forward line. I think if he was to play defence and have to mind a man and the only thing he's really got to do is focus on beating his opponent, I think that would be a lot more suitable for someone like Silvani. That's my feeling.
So,
and it wouldn't surprise me if we do lose him at the end of the year and he does go to another club and all of a sudden he plays in defence and if he ends up being a really good player, we'll say, well, why didn't we try that?
Hey, boys.
Anyway.
We've got a special guest who's just come in.
Yes.
Mr. Rocco.
The executive producer of the Jumper Punch channel.
That's better. How are we going, guys? How are we
going? You happy, Rocco?
Well, we're a lot better this week than we were the last half a dozen.
Well,
how about you?
We can't be more upset. We've got to be happier, don't we? Like a win's a win in any sport. That was I was saying this before. I think the win is we can't take too much out of it, but we can take something out of it, and it's good just to get a good feel within the supporters, the club, the players. It was definitely a different feel when they were going down the race today. I mean, there was a lot.
I reckon
more
you were there. I was there. I'll tell you what, it was the weirdest feeling. How many people were there at the game today? I never saw the
29,000.
So I had a feeling it wouldn't have been more than 30. Yeah, it was a really weird feel around the MCG today. And after the way we got off to a pretty sluggish first quarter start, I just thought, don't tell me.
The first quarter was definitely the same again. What are we doing? But then then something changed, and I saw the confidence grow as the game went on, and you could see him just running forward and spreading a little bit more instead of getting sucked in. And still a few mistakes, like I heard you guys talking a couple of times. Like there was one time when Harry, he took a mark actually, but he almost killed Curnow as he was going up. And I'm thinking like, what are you doing, mate? So
even in the first quarter, he dropped the sitter, didn't he? He dropped the sitter.
And we thought, the same. What's going on? But they seem to gained a little bit of confidence. What does that say about 2 weeks' time? Who knows, But they definitely played a lot better. And Cunners was good. It's good to see him get a game. Do you remember how we got Cunners? Do you remember who we traded? Who?
No, well, Cunners was one of the 5 big players that we drafted in 2015.
I understand, but his pick, who did we get rid of?
Pick 21,
who did we get rid of? Who did we get rid of?
In order to get pick 21?
Yeah.
At the end of 2014, who did we get rid of? Oh, probably Eddie Betts or something, I suppose.
Yaron.
Who was it? Oh, Yaron, Chris Yaron.
It was right. Chris Yaron. So about time we get something out of him. It's been like 6 years.
Well, Chris Yaron, we used, I think, pick 6 on Chris Yaron.
Yeah, and then we got pick 21 or 19, whatever it was, and we
from Richmond.
Cunners, and so he looked good. He done a couple of moves there in the middle that I was quite impressed with. Dow looked all right when he came on.
Fogarty was an interesting choice. I mean, he got his first crack at it today. I think, in fact, I might have even seen 1 or 2 comments that suggested this. Cunningham and Fogarty coming into the team, they weren't part of the losing streak over the last so many weeks. They came in and breathed some fresh air into the team, didn't they? They came in with enthusiasm and they played with a freedom that we haven't seen in any of the others.
Yep. And we were saying this before, Brownie. Putting Fogarty and Cunners at times into the centre and moving Paddy Cribs, which someone's been saying to put him in the forward line for ages.
Isn't it amazing, Brownie, how many times you've suggested that they put Cribs into the forward line, and finally they did it today and it worked and he kicked 3 goals straight.
They kicked 3 goals and Fogarty looked all right at times in the middle and Dow, and they changed that middle a little bit and it kind of made the Suns think about stuff instead of the same old. And then Kennedy come into play in that last quarter. He was amazing in that last quarter.
Yeah.
So see what happens when there's a little bit of change in the team and giving young players an opportunity, Rocco. I mean, I loved it. I
You
love.
know, this is the enthusiasm that can breathe. You know, that can be breathed into the team. Breathe some new life into it.
They just looked and what's the other number 37? What's his name?
Yeah,
Boyd.
yeah, young Boyd, Jordan Boyd.
Knowing it makes a huge difference. It was good. It was good to see. It was good to see that there was a bit of joy there with him. You know, so that was good.
Don't forget. Oh, sorry, I was just going to make a comment on that, but don't forget also that we actually controlled the middle of the ground. So we were able to get some really good purchase and opportunities by being able to control the middle of the ground. So
no doubt.
Why is that, Brownie? You saw the game. Why is that all of a sudden? I mean, all we did was add really Fogarty and Cunners and then kind of just moved Cribs out a bit, but especially in that last quarter and that third quarter or the second quarter, every quarter but the first quarter, they were just controlling the middle. They were getting the ball out.
I think
why?
I think very simply we were moving the ball a lot cleaner and a lot quicker than what we have in previous weeks, right?
Yep.
And what we were doing is that we were making smarter choices with our ball handling than we were. Yeah, we still made a couple of clangers and we still stuffed up a couple of times, but the result is that we actually got better opportunities by being able to control that and actually move it a lot quicker than what we've been doing in the past.
Yeah, I noticed too, and I think Cunners kind of did this a couple of times. I don't know if it kind of went through the team after. He held the ball on. He held the ball for an extra half a second and then handballed the ball like outside of the contest. There was someone like 3 or 4 meters away, you know, and I haven't really seen that. And then everyone started doing it. Even Curnow did it a couple of times in the forward line. Like instead of like booting it, he dodged and weaved a little bit. Bang, he passed on a handball. So it looked like, and then all of a sudden, the players looked like they gained a little bit of confidence and they were starting to move forward ahead of the play and giving them a bit of an option. So that confidence kind of like ran through the team, I noticed, you know, a little bit. So
our centre clearances, the handballs within the centre clearances were clean and they were to a player that was on the move. And that's something 100%. That we haven't done in previous weeks. We've all been standing around flat-footed and whether it be a marking contest or whether it be a ruck contest and things like that, our players were behind their players and also they were flat-footed. They weren't moving quickly enough, nor were they being able to create opportunity. And when you actually have players that start to grow in confidence, all of a sudden it becomes the gang tackle mentality. It becomes the win at all cost mentality. It's the I'm going to make a contest of this regardless of what. And as a result, that creates more opportunity for you. The comment that you made before about our forward line looking a lot more open, I think because we lowered our eyes a lot more going in today, we were actually getting better opportunities. I think at one stage, and I'm not sure who kicked it, but someone actually had the ball in and around between centre half forward and half forward flank and actually centred the ball, and it actually created a scoring opportunity for us again.
Was it Martin?
No. That was the first one. That was Teixeira. But no, it was somebody else. Was it Akers, I think, that actually had the ball and instead of blazing away, actually was able to send the ball.
It was Brody Kemp.
Oh, it was Kemp, was it? Yeah. Okay.
Yep, it was Kemp. I know the one. He was charging in and instead of going straight, he sort of went cross court and passed it. Yeah, it was Brody Kemp.
And the point I made before about Chincotta coming through the middle and taking the game on, and when he actually did that, what he did was in previous weeks, what that was doing with our opposition, when they were doing it to us, it automatically got players, and it was like a magnet. Our players would go to the ball, and that's what happened with Chincotta. And when he did it, he was actually able to take it on and open it up, and then that created a further opportunity. So that just shows you when you've got those opportunities, you've got to take them at that time to be able to create something further up the ground.
Hey,
And I think
this,
Martin was.
this is the confidence I like. Grant, anything can happen. Believe me, we'll back Carlton to win the Premiership. But not only that, he knows a bit about your bets, Vince. Don't worry about the harness. Back Carlton.
Oh, that's a big.
Oh, dear.
Call.
Is he going to go and put a couple of $100,000 on Carlton for the Premiership at 50 to 1, is he?
A bit of confidence.
I mean, that sounds like a logical bet, doesn't it?
Gamble responsibly, everyone.
Bet big or get out.
Go hard or go home.
And just like what I saw too, I believed during the week for some reason, and maybe Brownie, you can answer this. I don't know if you talked about what happened last week in the race, which I think was a big thing last week. I don't know. It felt like after that, there was some talk going around, and I did hear from one particular player who said that it's actually united them. I felt that the boys were going to unite a little bit. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I thought that united them more than previous weeks, like this being berated by the supporters and actually insulted and that. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know if anything like that's ever happened to you, Brownie, but what does it do to a group if you get berated? Probably not, because you're winning premierships. But if you're getting berated and like you're at your lowest point, what does it do to the group? Like, what does that do to the group? You know, it has to unite you, doesn't it?
Well, I said a couple of weeks ago that probably a truth session would probably might be a positive move for these guys to actually get together and look each other in the eye and actually bring some stuff forward. Now, there's been talks about there's dissent amongst, the back line. There's dissent about this and dissent about that. The result is, and you could see that on the faces of probably the coaching staff and everything like that, if this one had a drop today, they were in more shit than Ned Kelly. And realistically, this was more relief, I think, than something else. I saw a comment come up before about the fact that some of our supporters were in tears after the game. Is that a result of being frustrated, or is that a result of being relieved? And I'm more inclined to go with relief more than frustrated. Yeah. Even though I think
it's the stress that a lot of supporters have felt the stress of supporting a team which is just constantly losing week after week and not really showing much on the field. And I think it was getting to a lot of our supporters. And, they're proud people and they're proud supporters, and they wanted something to hold on to. And today the team finally got together and gave them what they were looking for. And I think that's what's caused some of those tears of relief and joy and happiness, I think.
I felt a little bit.
Isn't it a bit
not
like
emotional?
Isn't it a bit like the old story? When you're actually engaged and you're actually, you sow a decent crop, you reap the reward, don't you? So,
my word.
Up until 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, we identified the fact that everyone was safe, right? We're coaching safely, we're picking players safely, the players are playing safely, etc., etc. Today was probably an opportunity to break the shackles a bit where that's concerned. And as I said before, one game doesn't make a season, but if they come back after a week's rest and they've still got the same sort of commitment and what's the word I'm looking for? Probably
resolve.
Yeah, maybe resolve's probably a good word. Put into the game, I think you will find that some more results will come our way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I felt a little bit, not that I cried or anything, but a little bit like, because I didn't sing the song after the game. I just sat there. I didn't even stand up. I just sat there and I watched everyone. Like, especially my son. It's about my son these days. I want to see him get some success and feel happy, because he thinks now that we can make finals. So it's good that he gets a little bit of confidence, But I was just happy. And then I was watching like the players on the ground, and I was kind of like, I was really happy for him. I was really happy for him. there was nothing but happiness for them. I just happy that they united. Who knows if this is going to be the team that brings us forward? I don't know. But at the moment, they just felt united. And the other thing I noticed, they did this at halftime, and they did this at they just all waited before they moved for the last person to get there. And I think at one stage, Saad was away and they waited for Walsh to come into the group, and then they all moved away together. I don't know if that means anything, but it meant something.
I think they're just trying to give the message.
Today. Yeah, there was someone else who commented today, everyone was like clapping at halftime like they'd won the premiership. And I don't think it was about, like they won the premiership. When everyone was clapping, it was like they were just happy for him. Like, we know you can play better. And they were so happy the way that, they played the game. And that's how I felt, So it was good. It was a good feeling today.
At halftime, Saad was doing the Foxtel interviews. That's why they waited for him.
Yeah, and they waited for him. Where last week or the week before, I remember commenting to Dylan, I said they were walking off and there was like a group, and then there was a group of 3 or 4 walking like 10 or 15 meters behind them as they were walking off. And I said, what's that all about, And this week, so I don't know if there was some truths being said during the week or what happened, but they seem a little bit more united. Who knows how long it's going to last, but it's good. It's good.
I think the big test for everyone concerned is where they go away and reset and make sure that they've got their mind switched on for the next opportunity. This is going to be about opportunities from this point onwards as to what they do with them and what they don't do. And it's going to be a real test of character of everybody, whether they're made of something or whether they're not made of something. These next 10 weeks are going to sort them out. It really is going to set out who's going to be retained, who's going to be moved on, who's going to be put up for trade, and what opportunities are going to be created to be able to bring other blood into the organisation. So, and that, again, I'm suggesting, like we already know that the president he's moving on. Is there going to be a change in coaching staff? Is there going to be a change in player personnel? Is there going to be a change in what sort of systems and that are going to be created for them to be successful in 24? So, I'm already looking beyond the end of 23. I'm looking to see what sort of opportunities are going to be created in 24.
And I think 24 started today, starts next week. That's when 2024 starts now, getting ready for next year, see who's going to be there, who's willing to give it all. And Brownie, I mean, at Carlton, you were always successful, weren't you? Was there a time when, like, you're down, you know what I mean, and then something can just turn?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you recall, in 78, we lost the first 6 games under Ian Stewart. And the joint looked like a basket case at one stage. Yeah. And then there was some tough decisions made, some of them forced. God rest Wolsey's soul. But anyway, that's a different story, and that'll be for a different time. It was backs against the wall sort of stuff. I mean, we had the talent there, except that we just didn't have the discipline. And if you recall, that's when Jesselinko took over the side and actually turned us into a discipline instead of being a group of very talented players, a group of disciplined players. And all of a sudden there was that regime that we needed to be created to be able to get that winning mentality.
And within a year and a half, you made a grand final and won it.
Well, sometimes it only just takes
79.
Sometimes it just takes someone from possibly outside to make a change, and that will create a different atmosphere, a different mindset, And as a result of that, it creates a different winning atmosphere in the club.
Well, we're going to be talking about that next week. Who we think we should keep. There's 13 players that need to be signed that are out of contract at the end of this year.
So they need to be signed. You mean they're available to be signed or re-signed? Is that what you mean? You mean they come out of contract, Joe?
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay.
But I said last week that if we could make some changes within the playing personnel and give the supporter group something that they can actually say, okay, well, at least we've tried something, rather than, dish up the same old. And you made the comment before, Joe, the last 7 or 8 weeks, we've come onto this show on a regular basis, and all we've been talking about is doom and gloom, and how shitful everyone is, and whether the coach should be sacked, or whether that some of that noise has gone away tonight. But the reality is that they've still got to work on the fundamentals to be able to actually create something moving forward. And Vince, you said this 2 or 3 weeks ago. That we were looking for this Messiah mentality, and he's going to be the great white hope or the saviour or anything like that. Well, let me tell you, and I kept on saying this some weeks ago, it's your bottom 14 players. It's not your top 10 players that are going to win your premierships. And as a result of that, these are the guys that are going to do the 1%ers. They're the guys that are going to make that strong tackle or smother that ball or shepherd someone in a better position or do this sort of thing. The pleasing part about today was that, no longer are we throwing our players under the bus because, shit, I don't want it. Give it to somebody else that's in a worse position. At least that today, that didn't happen. And that's positive. That's something to say, well, hang on, we are capable of doing that. Yes, we can still improve on it, because, if you don't keep on improving, then you're never going to go anywhere. But and as I said before, and when I said this to you the other night when we were out, Vince, doing something is better than doing nothing. If you do nothing, you don't go anywhere. Do something. Right.
In fact, you're never really staying in the same spot. You're never really staying in the same spot, because even if you think you're just, doing nothing by staying in the same spot, everyone else is going past you. We've seen that many teams this year that when we look at them compared to last year, they've gone past us in a lot of ways. In fact, Essendon last week, we beat them last year in their 150th year, quite convincingly in that game. But this year they've come out and beaten us. So we really needed to do something today to give us some hope, to give us something to look forward to for the rest of the season.
Don't underestimate Brad Scott's influence in saying to those group of players, basically the same group of players were there last year as what they are this year, with probably exception of 1 or 2 inclusions. But they had to go away and make an improvement from last year's performances to be able to be in the Essendon side of today. Now, have we done that at Carlton? I don't know. I would say that, 6 weeks ago when we got rolled, or 7 or 8 weeks ago when we got rolled by Adelaide, I would say no. But, it's interesting, isn't it? When you have a win like this today, everyone jumps on the bandwagon and says, oh, no, we're completely united.
Rejuvenated.
And we've been building for this for, 3 or 4 weeks. That's crap. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. The game of football is still played on a one-on-one basis.
Week to week.
Beat your opponent. And, to say that you've been building for this for weeks, that's rubbish. That's you've got nothing
You
to
don't
do
buy it.
No, I don't. No.
Yep,
No.
fair enough.
Playing these young kids, definitely, mate, they've got to continue on with this, because it just brings that energy into the whole side, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I said, like Cunners and all of them that came in, and Kemp and all that, they've got this freedom about them. Before they get Carltonized, let's just let them go, mate. And I'm telling you, the run out of the back and that it's just amazing. So Yeah, I think we should just keep playing these kids now and build with too. Don't worry about draft and other players and all that, because I'm telling you, man, it's about building within, man, and building that
Well,
team within. I believe.
If I may just share this with you guys, in when I was playing way back when, and I've said this before to you, Rocco, but we had the nucleus of experienced players, and then we brought a whole heap of enthusiasm and kids into the side, and they were mentored along the way to actually create good players. And as a result of that, you've got players that are now possibly legends of the club, purely and simply because they were brought along with experienced players and be able to be mentored through. You know, as a result of that, the success of that era was created by the homegrown talent of which we were able to produce. Now, you know, if you look at that 79 side, I think there was only 2 interstate players. One was Robert Klomp and the other one was Mike Fitzpatrick. The rest of them were basically homegrown stuff. With exception of Percy, he came from Tasmania, I think, from memory. And the rest of them were through our zone. And you know, the reality is, and we've touched on this before, if you do your homework early, then you've got creation of opportunity with young players coming through, providing that you've done your homework. And then these experienced players that have had, you know, 6, 8, 10 years at the club, they can then start to create that mentoring ship through the side. And we lost sight of that. I mean, you identified some weeks ago that we've got bugger all bloody final experience with some of our players, and you know that when finals come around, you need to be on your game, and you need to have that experience around you to be able to create those opportunities and also be able to create success.
Yeah. My word. Well, Joe, we talked about a lot of these players coming into the side today and generating a bit of enthusiasm. I reckon we probably should go through our best players for the night. What do you think?
Well, is there anything else that people want to talk about?
Oh, well, I think we've pretty much dissected the game from go to woe. I'm not sure that there's too much else to talk about. As Brownie said, it's only the one win. You know, one swallow doesn't make a spring, as they used to say. So we look forward to hopefully putting up just as good a performance against Hawthorn, and that presents a new challenge, and they've certainly proved themselves against very, very good quality opposition at times this year, and at other times they've capitulated to other teams. So we don't know what sort of Hawthorn's going to come out on the day, but all we can do is prepare ourselves as best we can now that the pressure's off a little. You know, we can go into the bye a little bit relieved. Hopefully we get refreshed. Players can get over some of those niggling injuries by having that week off, and you know, we can go into that game after having 14 days off and really tackle it with enthusiasm, hopefully.
All right, let's go
and
through
before I noticed you spoke just quickly on Sauce, and also maybe Fisher. I still wouldn't be giving up on those kids, man. I reckon if we give them a role, I think they'll be all right. Sauce might have his deficiencies, but far out he works hard, you know what I mean? So I think if we give him a definite role now, the problem is I don't even know where that role is, you know what I mean? But
what did you think of my suggestion in trying him in defence, Rocco?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who would you leave out? But like, who would you replace him for?
Wiedering.
You reckon?
I'd play Wiedering up the ground.
Yeah,
just away from fullback.
It could be maybe a go, but I think Sauce needs a definite role somewhere.
I'm thinking of putting him in that back pocket area and maybe throwing Doherty further up the ground.
Well, I mean, and Doherty again, like he's been playing a little bit up the ground.
Even Sard further up the ground, and let Sard run through the middle and start to break the lines and run through whether it's the wing or right even through the middle of the ground and start delivering the ball into the forwards. That's how I would use Sard. I think he's wasted in the back line, to be honest.
No, I agree, and it's all right to play Sard back there, but like today, like Brownie said, when they started working him out and shutting him down a little bit, move him up the ground, mate. Move him up the ground, mate.
Absolutely.
Make him run through the middle, mate. Like, man, I'm telling you, teams will panic. Teams will panic.
You know who used to play like that, Rocco?
Who's that?
Before Sard came to Carlton, who was the player that used to play like that a lot more? Not towards the end of his career so much, but 10 years earlier.
Christo.
No. Cade Simpson. Cade Simpson used to be one of those players that used to run and bounce the ball. I mean, hardly anyone bounces the ball anymore other than Sard, usually.
Yeah.
And
I think
he used to break the lines, especially when he was sort of, in his mid-20s to late 20s, not so much when he became a 30-year-old plus. I think he started to settle more in the half-back line and even back pocket. But Sard's still young enough to be able to do that. And I think that's where we will get our best value out of him, playing him in that sort of a role.
That next
I can even go back further than that. What about Kenny Hunter?
Well, Kenny Hunter wasn't so much of a he was a great mark and obviously played either half-back flank or sometimes transferred to the half-forward flank. But I'm talking more about a midfielder type, Brownie, where he's running with the ball, bouncing the ball right through the middle of the ground and delivering it lace out to Harry or Charlie or any other leading forward. I mean,
what about
he's a type
Scotland?
that can lower his eyes, Adam Sard.
Scotland's another one that used to do it.
Scotland used to run around, and
Scotland's another one. Yeah.
He had perfect skills, left and right foot.
Yeah.
Well, we're crying out for some more pace, Like I'm telling you, man, Sard would be perfect up the ground a bit. Yaron, I saw that. Yaron was 1-2. They used to run from the back line. And remember, next year, if everything goes well, you're going to get Zach Williams back into that side. And I think you would play a fit Zach Williams in your side for sure. And that gives you then the potential to move like a Doherty or a Sard out there. Now you got Kemp taking like a position there. So, you get him back.
Well, actually, Kemp's the type of guy that might actually squeeze Silvani out of the team. The way Kemp's going.
100%.
He's playing well, the young guy. I mean, he's finally coming good. He's been on our list now for 4 or 5 years. He was one of our highest draft pick choices. And he's finally looking like, with a bit of regular senior football, he might be up to the grade, I think.
Definitely.
Give him some more time.
Let's go through our best players. Here we go. Let me see.
All right.
Peter, go through your votes.
Okay. Adam Chera, I gave 3 to, and the reason why I gave 3 to Chera was very simply he hit the scoreboard. It was a toss-up between Walsh and Chera, and Walsh work out of the centre, and his delivery inside 50. I think he had the most amount of inside 50s out of our players, but Chera was the one that hurt him on the scoreboard. So I gave Chera 3. I gave Walsh 2 purely and simply because of his work rate, and the work rate more so from probably midway through the first quarter, through the second, third, and into the last. I thought that was really good. Doherty, I thought, gave us some better drive out of the back line today than he has done in previous weeks, only because of his disposal was a lot cleaner today. So I've given Chera 3, Walsh 2, and Doherty 1.
Okay.
Well, can I just correct you all there?
Yeah.
I don't know what screenshot you've got up there, Joe, but I think you've made it blue.
Oh, hang on. Sorry.
Because I saw a text message that I passed on from Peter saying his votes were Walsh 3.
Oh, yes, I did. Sorry.
Chera 2
Sorry, I
and
got that
Doherty
wrong
1.
way around.
Sorry about that.
And my votes are nothing like what I gave.
Oh.
So you must be using an old screenshot
can we
from
go
the
back?
previous game.
Can we go back, please?
Sure.
I think it was
sure
the other way
right
around.
one.
Actually, I'll correct this. It was actually Walsh I gave 3 to,
Yes,
Chera
that's
2,
right. And Doherty 1. But what you'll find, Brownie, is that those votes there are from a previous game where...
Yeah, they are. Sorry. For some
Yeah.
reason, I was trying to fix it before the game. So I'll tell you what people have.
Just take those votes down. Take them off.
Take them off. We'll just go through them ourselves without having anything up on screen.
No, I can tell you what they are because I have got them on a spreadsheet. Correct.
Okay. Righto.
Have I? Share. Yeah. So Peter gave Sam Walsh. I deleted the wrong slide. I'm very sorry.
Okay.
Peter Brown had Walsh 3, Chera 2, Doherty 1. Vince had Chera 3, Walsh 2, Cripps 1.
Yeah, I gave Cripps 1. Correct.
And I had Chera 3, Doherty 2, and I gave one to Nick Newman.
I'm
sorry about that. I deleted the wrong slide. Yeah,
that's all right.
Slide was from last week.
I'm sorry about that. I thought I'd point it out because it wasn't the right votes.
No, that's fine. But this is correct. This is our leaderboard. That is correct. I was playing around with the previous slide because it wasn't working on it. So I apologise for that.
It's all right. Hey, Brownie.
Yeah.
Joe's got 10 demerit points already. He's only got 2 to go before he loses his hosting job. I'm only kidding, Joe.
I am more than happy for you to do this next week, Vince. And I will comment on your mistakes. No,
we will manage Joe, will we, or what?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to put him in chains, I think. We'll have to make sure he doesn't drink any of that Bangkok, punch that he drinks over there of a Sunday afternoon.
I'll tell you about that in a minute. So our leader is Adam Chera on 48. I think this is a really sad indictment on our season, right? Chera 48, Walsh 36 in second, having missed the first 4 games. Doherty, Charlie Curnow, and then a 20-point gap to the person in 5th, which is Blake Acres.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry.
Well, we can see there who's the more consistent players all year. Those 4 have been in our best players in most of our games, even though a lot of them have been very disappointing games. This is where, best and fairest results are often skewed by the fact that you have to give votes to Carlton players in games where, you'd probably prefer to give no one votes. But nevertheless, we have to choose our best players even in losing sides.
We do. Hey, boys, you know what time it is for now, don't you?
Beautiful kick from Brown. That's a magnificent kick. Look at that. He was inside the centre square when he kicked that for a goal.
Yes. I'll tell you what, Brownie, you look like you're about 6 feet in the air when you're kicking that ball.
Yeah, I actually got off the ground.
I just want to say something. I agree with this comment.
Yeah,
Joe has the full support of the board.
You're in trouble, mate.
Yes, Rocco has told us that you've got his full support, Joe.
The full support, mate. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, you know what that means, boys.
That's straight from Rocco Sayers.
We're not interviewing anyone else at the moment. No one.
Really? I've got a contract till the end of next year.
We'll honour it. We'll honour it.
Yes.
Thank you. So anyway, enough of the comedy from the peanut gallery. Brownie,
well, Brownie,
this is a special week because you've got a split award, haven't you?
I have this week.
You couldn't separate them, Brownie.
I couldn't separate them today. I thought. Well, firstly, I actually gave it to both TDK and Brodie Kemp. Now, the reason why I did this was you touched on that before with Kemp, and I thought his leadership and his interception and stuff like that this week was exceptional. And it was interesting because he was on Casbolt, and Casbolt's no easy opponent, particularly with his marking abilities. And he's improved his kicking too, just quietly. Unfortunately, we didn't get the opportunity of being able to get the benefit of that. I wouldn't imagine at Carlton for many years. But anyway, and he was my boy because he used to wear my number.
Yes,
that's right.
with Kemp, I just think he's quietly building into some sort of leadership role, particularly in that back line. And I think his maturity is starting to come through. I thought his work today was good. I thought his interception was good. And then the other big bloke, TDK, he hit the scoreboard, which was really pleasing. He kicked a couple of goals, and his work around the ground was it wasn't exceptional, but it was work-like, and I was happy. At least he gave the opportunity for our midfielders to be able to take advantage of it, and he also created some other opportunities further, either in the back line or in the forward line on a couple of occasions. So, as I said, I couldn't split the two of them. I thought I'd be greedy this week and give 2 brownie points.
Okay. Now in the tipping competition,
Joe, can you put up that photo again? Can you any chance put up that brownie points photo again of the 2 players? No, of the 2 players.
Yeah, well, he's done it again. He's done it again with the surname.
Is that TDK when he was like 3 years old? Like, where'd you get that photo?
It's called the Carlton Football Club website. That's the best photo.
Mate, that must have been when he played in the Big End Little League, I think.
That's the best photo they had of him, other than he had his arm around the only
mate, he looks like a victim of anorexia nervosa in that bloody photo.
Sorry for talking while you were interrupting, Vince.
Sorry, but I just reckon that photo was lousy.
Well, okay. Well, on Monday, I would like you to ring the Carlton Football Club and tell them that, because the only other photo they had of him was when he got drafted, and he looks about 2 years old. It's got him, Harry, Charlie. Harry's got all his hair down here.
If you type in Tom De Conning, you get like 1,000 photos of him.
I went to the Carlton Football Club website.
It's all good. It's just funny how young he looked there.
I thought you were going to mention Rocco about his surname in that photo collage there together with Brodie Kemp, because their names in the middle of that thing are totally skewed. I don't know what he's done there. He's put Tom De Conning's name over about 3 different lines.
Well, I'm going to show you something just to prove to you how stupid this system is. So just hang on.
Oh, it's the system.
Here we go.
Okay. It's the system.
Yeah, it is. Hang on, have a look at this.
Just while Joe's doing that, guys.
Hang on my Excel, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And on this system, that's what it looks like. So how does that happen? I don't know.
I don't know, but all I'm hearing is Carlton excuses here. That's all I'm hearing.
The fonts need to be brought in a bit, Joe. Just let's bring them in a little bit in size. Maybe that'll fix it.
On PowerPoint, you'd expect it to work on here.
Okay.
Right?
TDK, he does too. TDK looked like Bootsma there. Remember Bootsma? He did too.
Josh Bootsma, yeah.
That's a great comment.
Interestingly enough, guys, I think we had a win today just quietly because everyone's in very good spirits and obviously everyone's prepared to have a crack. So
all I want to say to you two splitters is I've gone to the top of the leaderboard.
Yes, you have. Yes, me and Brownie both went for Gold Coast. So enjoy your lead while it lasts.
And I'm telling you,
we'll get you. Don't worry, we'll catch up there.
I'm going to tip next week's game. I think we'll beat the bye. Right?
Yes,
well, we
Joe.
won't lose, that's for sure.
Well, no, you never know.
We're going to have 2 weeks in a row. We're going to have 2 weeks in a row where we don't lose a game.
They're a good team, the bye. They've won the last 4 weeks. Talking of the bye, right? Do you think this is a good idea how they split it over 4 rounds?
Well, in previous years, they had it over 3 rounds where they played 6 games per round for 3 rounds. And it was only the 6 games and they started them on Thursday nights. And the problem with that was they'd have a Thursday night game, a Friday night game, 2 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday. That's what we had this week. Doing it over 4 rounds allows you to have a lot more rounds where there's 8 games and 7 games rather than just 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I still
don't
think
mind
it should be. I think it should be just either 1 round or 2 rounds. It just. I mean, we've gone around 14 without a break.
You'll never please everyone with this. You'll never please everyone because some people even call for a total rest, like one weekend where there's no football at all.
No,
but then people complain that they haven't got any football to digest at all. So I don't know. You'll never please everybody.
Go out with the kids. Go out with your family.
I reckon they could easily showcase football in country football and VFL football and other competitions around the country, really, in a week like that. But
it's fine. I think it's fine. It doesn't matter. 3-4 weeks. What's the difference? I mean,
at least you got a few games to talk about.
And that's it. That's the week That's the week that you go out with your family. The other weeks,
that's right.
You watch your team.
I'm here alone. I don't have any family. I'm watching the cricket.
That'd be right.
What's the score? What's the score?
6 for 367. Khawaja 139 not out. Cummings just hit 2 of the biggest sixes off Moen Khan you'll ever want to see.
I don't think any of our viewers are really that interested.
In cricket,
Rock asked what the score was.
They say they should be, mate. This is the Ashes. Let's be serious.
Okay.
The Ashes.
Let's have a new show. Let's have a new show on a Wednesday night, Brownie. We'll call it Ashes Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday.
Yeah, Ashes Wednesday.
I bet you if we had a podcast about the Ashes, it'll be a winner.
Well, why don't you do it then?
Do it, Rocco.
Man, what else do you want me to do? I'm bloody now. That's it. I'll really get me bloody girlfriend to leave me after that.
That's all right. My girlfriend doesn't understand because when Carlton are on, I yell at the TV, and then when she says to me, "How come when this game was on, I was watching North Melbourne Bulldogs?" She goes, "You not yell at TV and you not watch like." And I'm trying to explain to her about how my team is Carlton. She goes, and as soon as I say Carlton, all she ever says is, "Rocco says, go Blues, go Blues."
Yes.
Anyway, so on that note, we will bid Peter a fond farewell. Now, as we said, next week we won't have much to talk about because of the bye.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is Peter, myself, and Vince are going to play list manager. All right, we're going to be very controversial, and we're expecting a lot of negative comments saying you guys are bloody stupid. How dare you get rid of him, and how dare you do that? But that is what we're going to do. Okay.
So essentially, we're going to go through the players, and we're going to give our own assessment about whether we think we should keep the player, delist the player, or attempt to trade the player.
Well, the first ones we're going to go through are the ones that they're out of contract at 2023, right?
Okay. Yep.
So that'll be our first group. And then the second group are those that are contracted to 2024 and beyond.
Yep.
Example, right? Mm-hmm. Zach Fisher is contracted to the end of 2024. I might say, hey, why don't we bundle him up with a lower draft pick and try and get Billy Bob from Upper Cumbuck to
Sean Darcy from Fremantle. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, something like that. So
I reckon they should all be in the same basket.
Sorry?
They should all be in the same basket. They're all up for trade.
Well, the easiest ones are the ones who come out of contract is easiest.
All of them.
Because you don't but you can't trade someone who's coming out of contract.
Get rid of Cribbs, get rid of McKay, whatever, man. I'm telling you, you put them all up. Everyone's got to earn their spot next year.
Yeah, but it's easier. You can't trade people who are not contracted.
Yes,
right?
You can.
No, you can't. You have to sign them. You either sign them or you delist them, but you can't trade them.
You can't trade someone that's not contracted.
Yeah, exactly. How can I trade you if you're not contracted?
Joe, you can trade someone who wants to go to a certain club, even though he's not contracted, and if that club offers you some draft picks in exchange for that player, in other words,
you guys need to learn the law. How can I send someone somewhere who's not on contract? You can't. That's what the contract is for.
Maybe
a player can come up to you and say, "I want." Sorry.
Too much for my brain at the moment. But all I'm saying is that they should all be in the same basket. They should all be.
So, in other words, whether they've got a 7-year contract like Harry Mackay until the end of 2030 on $1 million a year, or whether they're a player who's out of contract at the end of this year, or anywhere in between, they should all be up for trade, as in we're prepared to listen to any offer that's made for any player from any club. That's what you're really trying to say.
Don't you agree?
Okay. I just want to all you people who have said on this web on the comments, you can trade them. I am going to read to you the AFL rule, right?
Okay.
And
before you do that, Joe, because I'm not up to date with that, but I just posed the question: did any of you guys have a look at? And I've got to admit, this is the first time I've heard of this, but it's interesting, isn't it? A guy by the name of Richie from Brisbane actually went and approached Fagan and said to him, "I'm not playing well. I'd like to be dropped."
Daniel Rich. Yeah, and so did Jack Gunston.
Exactly the same thing.
And do you believe that?
I heard that.
And do you believe that?
Well, it's happened. So as a result of that, maybe some home truths might come into it. Look,
okay.
I'm just throwing that out there. I'd leave you boys with that to ponder for a while. You guys can debate the rules around trading and stuff like that. I just want you to listen to this. No, hang on. I just want you to listen to this. All these people are going, Judd was out of contract and he came to Carlton. Yes, he was out of contract, right? So it says here, AFL rule.
No, but Joe, we did a trade for Judd. We gave West Coast pick 3 and pick 20 for Judd and pick 47 in return.
Because he wanted to sign, West Coast put a contract in front of him, right?
Yeah, but he's still out of contract.
Yeah, but you've got to. If you don't get a contract,
then what would have happened? Judd would have had to go down to the draft, and then he wouldn't have gone where he wanted. So you can trade someone.
Didn't we actually exchange a player as well? Didn't Kennedy end up going to West Coast in
correct?
In that deal?
I'm telling you.
We gave them pick 3 and Josh Kennedy and pick, it was another pick. I think it might have been pick 47 in exchange for Chris Judd. Pick 20, I think it might have been. And we got Chris Judd and pick 47. I think that was the deal. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to let me? You're all interrupting. You're not letting me state the rule. Right? So the rule states clubs can trade contracts that are out of player only if they have an intention of re-signing. Okay?
Intention.
So in the event of Chris Judd, right?
Mm-hmm.
West Coast offered him a contract.
Yeah.
If they didn't offer him a contract, he would have gone to the draft if he wanted to keep playing. The only reason he came to Carlton, and that's when you can trade. If Peter's out of contract, right? Take Patrick Cripps, right? Patrick Cripps comes out of contract at the end of this year, and we've offered him a contract, right? And he says, "No, I don't want
$1 million the other day, but I haven't got that $1 million." They can offer you whatever they want.
I'll tell you what, Joe. Rather than taking up any more time on this show, how about we do some homework during the week? I'll try and find out what the rules are. Well,
I'm telling you the rules. You're not listening. You're all interrupting. You're all going, but Chris Judd this and that.
All right. Okay.
Mate, it doesn't matter. I said was that everyone should be up for trade. That's it. Everybody.
I don't disagree.
Yeah,
But
everybody. That's all.
anyway,
That's
all right,
There's,
Peter, we'll see
there's
you
something
next
in
week.
that Thailand punch, I'm telling you, Brownie.
No, it's not.
That's true.
All right,
That's
see you,
true.
Peter.
Good to see you, Brownie. Well,
You
you
guys
cut him
need
off
to learn
nice
your-
and quick.
I didn't mean it. You guys need to learn some rules. And Jack, when Jackson Fry says, give it a rest, Joe. No, I won't give it a rest until people learn the rules.
Anyway,
All
it
right.
doesn't matter. Just trade everybody.
Any player is tradable, but it depends on who.
What you'll find is that players who do want to move on will have a preferred club. They will tell their existing club where they prefer to go, and they then get together and they do a deal together.
But that's because
so that they can end up at the club that they want to end up at.
Yeah, but that's because they don't want to sign with the club where they're at.
Yes,
right?
that's fine, and that's what I'm saying. They're out of contract.
Yeah, but that's because the club hasn't given him a contract. In the event of Chris Judd, West Coast offered him a contract, and he said, "No, I want to explore my options."
Yeah. Well, what's the definition of offering him a contract? Okay, yeah, we'll offer him a contract, $100,000 a year, Chris.
No,
is he going to say yes to that? No.
A reasonable contract.
Well, what's reasonable mean?
Well, you're not going to offer Chris Judd $100,000 a year, are you?
Okay, I'll find out what the AFL says about this, and I'll find out during the week, and we'll report to everyone next Sunday night. So make sure you tune in for that.
I love it.
All right. Anyway,
all right, guys. This is what we're going to do.
You going?
I'm going to also leave you because I have got some editing for the Jumper Punch tomorrow to get ready. A big show, so you can talk.
Hey, actually, Rocco, while we've got you, just before you do go, I know we were going to probably talk about this when we were talking about the forthcoming shows, but you've prepared us a little preview, haven't you? Of
I was going to say, do you want me to play it for you?
Why don't we do it?
You might as well play it now. Yeah, that's it. Play it now.
Okay, well, on Wednesday evening, I have Legends of the Jumper Punch. And this week, it is...
That's at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Hi, I'm Dean Rice. Let's start again. Hi, I'm Dean Rice, 95 Premiership player. Come and watch the Jumper Punch every Tuesday night at 7 p.m.
Oh, you're a professional. Well done. Good stuff.
Dean Rice.
Well, we had number 23 last week, a blonde-haired Paul Meldrum who played in the 87 Premiership, and we replaced him with another number 23 with blonde peroxide hair in Dean Rice. He played in the Premiership as well 8 years later in 95. So we had a great time, didn't we, Rocco, with Special Fried?
Special Fried the Rizzo, mate. He was an honourable Italian, Rice, man. We loved him. And we were
all the Italians used to call him Dino Risotto.
Dino Risotto, yeah, that's it. The Dino Risotto, mate. He was a star, man, and we were saying how tough he was, man. He was just brute of a player, man. And then to come back from 2 ACLs, three
major knee injuries.
ACLs, there was another knee. He did his other knee also. But, to come back from that and then to play in a Premiership and, mate, the bloke was a star. Absolutely loved the interview today. So that's going to be a big one, yeah. So he's got, as always, Vince. Thanks to Vince again for introducing us to Dean Rice, one of my heroes. Doing these.
I didn't realise, Rocco, but Dean Rice and I are almost exactly the same age. He's just a little bit older than me, about 5 months.
And he's got a medal. He's got one extra.
Yeah,
medal.
he's got it. Yeah, but between us, we've actually played 234 games of football and kicked about. How many goals did he kick? I'm trying to remember now.
About 48 or something, wasn't it?
Well, he kicked. I think he kicked 85 goals from memory. I think he kicked.
He kicked 85 goals. You're correct.
Yeah, 42 for Carlton.
Yeah.
Probably would have kicked a lot more, but he actually went to the half-back line in the latter part of his career.
But anyway, like as always, all players have got a story to tell, and he's also got a great story to tell about his journey from Geelong reserve under 19s to St Kilda to Carlton to Premiership player. So everyone, make sure you don't miss that one there.
It's a great story, the Dean Rice story. Yeah,
I love it, and he was such a good,
great guy, wasn't he? Fantastic guy.
So everyone catch that. Right. Naturally, the jumper punch, and and
keep editing. All right, see you, Rocco.
Yeah, we'll keep editing. See you guys.
Thanks for joining us, Rob.
All right, so Vince, it's time for.
I'm waiting for you to chop me off next. Thanks for that, Joe.
Okay, so if I got 10 merit points, you need to get 100 because Vince, last week you tipped shell shock.
Shell shock, because I thought that's what the club was in, shell shock after yet another loss to Essendon. So we went for that one and didn't do too bad. It came third, but not enough to win.
Dividend.
No third dividend either. Even if we backed it for the place, Joe, we would have done our money.
So this week you've got?
This week, I thought, we'll see, we've had a win today. We'll go for another one at Pinjarra Harness. Now, Pinjarra is just south of Perth in Western Australia. So tomorrow, the 19th of June, this race 6, number 1 from the pole, Navy Street. I thought that was appropriately named for the horse that we'll back this week with young Emily Johnson driving the horse for trainer Aidan DeCampo. So I think that the horse will be in the race for a long way here from the pole.
Vince, it says there 3:20 p.m. Is that Perth time?
That's Western Australian time. It's always in local time. So it'll be 5:20 p.m. on the eastern states, 10 to 5 in South Australia, and I don't know what time in your neck of the woods. Probably
midday.
What is it?
12:20. We're 3 hours behind.
3 hours behind Perth?
2 hours. 2 hours behind Perth, 3 hours behind Melbourne. So, yeah, it'll be about 1 o'clock. Navy Street. Okay, so Navy Street. I didn't see the odds. What odds is it?
I reckon we'd probably get something around the 4 to 1, maybe 4 or 5 to 1, yeah. Okay. I'm hoping that it can hold the lead, and once the horses hold the lead, they're generally pretty hard to go past if they've got any ability, and this horse has got a lot of form against its name. It's won quite a few of its 23 starts, I think it had. So this is over the longer journey of 2,631 metres, so it's going to have to hold the lead for a long time. But nevertheless, I think it'll be in the race for a long way and will certainly give a big sight to our Omen Bet punters.
Vince, what's the name of that horse that you backed in Sweden?
By the way, we're only going to put $10 on it, by the way.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. What's the name of that horse you back in Sweden?
Oh, yes, Just Believe. It was back. It came second. Last night, yeah, it came second in a race last night. Its last race in Sweden was last night. Now it'll be coming back to Australia after that run, but very brave second. So overall, I think been a pretty successful journey over there to Sweden to race against the best horses in the world. So Just Believe with Greg Sugars and his wife Jess Tubbs. They've done a marvellous job with that horse over there, racing at the Solvalla Raceway just outside of Stockholm.
Okay, so this is your sad tale, Vince. We started with $40.
Haven't had a win since May?
You've blown it, and then we've had to put another $60 into the kitty.
Oh, well, we thought we'd put another $60 in. Let's see how we go this week. We'll put $10 in.
So you put $10 the win on
Navy Street,
on Navy Street, okay? Yep. So everyone?
All right, so there we go. Street. This is a little bit like Mick Malloy's, multi-bet that he does, mixed multi every week. So we're picking a horse, not necessarily for its ability, but purely based on its name. So
just on its name.
But a little bit of fun. So make sure you don't go too overboard when you're putting a bet on.
Just a couple of 100,000.
Despite Joe's advice about going hard or going home.
Exactly. Go hard or go home. All right, guys. We've come to that time of the show. It's time for us to go. So we hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Just to go through the shows this week, Monday night, 7 p.m. on the Blue Abroad channel. You've got the Blue Abroad show with Terry Degani. And then you saw the promotion on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Also on Blue Abroad, you've got the Jumper Punch with Rocco, Paolo.
Yes, and I think you'll find that Richard Rash Hussein will be hosting or co-hosting with Paul Sebastiani and Rocco on Tuesday night. I was given a little bit of a hint that he might be the guest host this Tuesday night. So make sure you tune in because Rash is a great guy and certainly a very passionate Carlton supporter.
Then on Wednesday night, we've got Forever Rivals on the Jumper Punch channel at 7 p.m, followed by an interview with Dean Rice at 8 p.m. Legends of the Jumper Punch, and you all know it's Dean Rice. And then the best Carlton show on the internet by Country Mile, Blue Sunday, next Sunday at 7:30 p.m. That's our regular time. We're only on Monday last week because of the King's birthday weekend. I nearly said Queen's. I don't know if there's any more public holidays like that in the future. Is there, Vince?
I don't think there's any more until we get to grand final week, Joe. I think the day before the grand final's the next public holiday or the next official one in Victoria.
Yeah. So on behalf of Vince and I, we'd like to thank everyone for your participation, contribution to the show. Like I said, don't forget to give us a like and a follow on YouTube and Facebook if you haven't already done so.
By the way, Joe, I should just stop you there for a second. On the Facebook page, if people are looking for Blue Sunday, look for Blue Sunday Group. That's the page that we're using as the one for the show. So there's another page also called Blue Sunday, but I don't think that's very active at the moment. Is that right?
I'm gonna delete that. So don't worry. I'll get rid of that.
Yeah. So Blue Sunday Group. That's the one to search for.
And we've just lost a wicket. Kawaj has just been bowled. So there you go.
What did he make in the end? It was a great innings.
141 off 321 balls.
Yeah,
but he was trying to force.
That's a great. He was
trying to force the pace. It was a very stupid shot.
And have they actually gotten over the England score of 380?
No, they're 21 behind.
Well, it'll end up being a similar score. I think the match, unless England, capitulate in their second innings, I can't see a result happening.
No. So, Vince, it's a goodbye from me and also...
And a goodbye from me as well, Joe. And as we always say when we... go on.
No, I was going to say, keep going.
No, you go. You're the host.
No, I was just going to play the Carlton song for those of you who missed it.
Well, that's right. I was just going to say we only ever play it when we have a win, and we haven't had one for so long. So I guess we should give everyone. I noticed that you did it at the start of the show, but I think we're going to give it to them at the end as well, aren't we?
Yeah, we won't play our normal intro because I think we'll just want to listen to this song and then.
But before you put it on, we're going to introduce it by going 1, 2, 3.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.
We are the Navy Blues. We are the old dark Navy Blues. We're the team that never lets you down. We're the only team old Carlton knows. With all the champions they like to send up, we'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous old dark Blues.